founder and CEO of a company called Independent Girls. I'm also a youth member, and I'm also the acting secretary general of SARC and BA. Without wasting any time, I'd like to take this opportunity and give our youth chamber chairperson, Mr. Refilwe Liteja, to just give us a brief at the background of the CEO series, and also just to give us a bit of information on why we're doing this. Over to you, Refilwe.
Thank you, Fiziwe, Program Director. You know, we've recently had very important and serious events with hot technical topics. So one is looking forward to a more laid-back, session tonight with you and the CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Refilwe Liteja, and I'm the CEO of the BBC BE Youth Chamber. And my role today is to give you an overview, of the CEO meetup and the BBC BE Youth. But firstly, I'd like to acknowledge, our president who I know, is joining us today, Mr. Denny Masimini, our DP, Ms. Kile Mteto, the CEO, who is the host, who's the guest speaker as well, Mr. Gregory Mofokeng, BBC BE CEO, I see that he's also joined us here, Mr. Khanki Matabane, stalwarts who are joining us tonight, BBC BE Council members, BBC Youth Office Bearers, Youth Council, and all the youth that is joining us today. You are welcome to the fourth installment of the CEO Meetup. And the objective of the CEO Meetup was to create a platform for the youth to engage with industry giants in the built environment and to learn about how they got to where they are, but most importantly, how they did it. Our first session was with the CEO of Moteo, May Leti Majau, from a contractor's point of view. And she was followed by the CEO of Cape Engineering, Ndate Richard Fries, who's also here with us today. And our previous meet-up was with the CIDB CEO, Ndate Vuyani Kamede, from a regulator point of view. But tonight we have Mr. Gregory Mofokeng, who's the CEO of an organization called the Black Business Council and the Built Environment. So in our pursuit, we've tried to accommodate members from various corners in the built environment. And at a high level, that's what the CEO Meetup is about. But Program Director, if you can allow me 2 minutes to quickly speak about the Youth Chamber as well. Just a second. Okay, great stuff. So the BBC BE Youth is a youth advocacy group in the built environment. And our vision is to be a distinct, focus-driven, and results-orientated young Black advocacy group in the built environment that develops and creates opportunities for the youth. We essentially have 4 membership categories, which are youth-owned entities. So these are contractors and consultants. We've got young professionals. We've got member organizations through our mother body, and we also have students. So these are about a few benefits for joining the Youth Chamber. We have direct access to industry regulatory bodies such as CIDB, NHBRC, and so forth. We offer industry-related workshops and seminars and roundtables such as these throughout the year. We also have a youth desk that assists members with various issues within their space. Another benefit that we have as a youth chamber is that we've got pre-approval for public liability, construction performance guarantees, and professional indemnity from Lareco Brokers, who are also our members. That's exclusive to BBC BE Youth Chamber members. So we're quite an active structure. What I'm projecting now are our programs for the year. In June, we had a youth summit, which focused on the 4th Industrial Revolution. Subsequently, we had a construction regulations workshop, which was held last week. And the focus here was really more about entry-level, contractors and what they need to start up their businesses. Today we have the CEO Meetup with Mr. Gregory Mofokeng. Next month, we'll have the Women's Month event. And in September, we've got an ABT, an Alternative Building Technology workshop as well. And in October, we plan on having a manufacturing suppliers workshop, and this is really for people in this line of business to access market opportunities. That will be followed by a student readiness workshop. This is really just to prepare our our student members, to be ready for industry before they graduate. Then in December, we'll be celebrating Black excellence, from young people. So we'll have our youth awards then. Then early next year, we'll have a professional registration workshop. So this is for professionals that, for example, want to register with the likes of EXA. Then we'll finish our financial year with the CEO meetup next year, February. So high level, this is it. And we're always looking for partners. So if there are programs that you've identified that you'd want to partner with, please let us know, and we'll be happy to do that. I just want to finish by acknowledging the leadership that's working hard on making sure that these activities are being executed. Our Deputy Chair, Nonkulelo Madondo, our Secretary General, Kitiboni Tolane, and our DSG, Fana Kumalo, and our Treasurer General, Tato Sukhwel. Then just lastly, if you want to join the BBC BE Youth Chamber, please contact info@bbcbe.org. And for any information, please visit our website and so forth. So, Program Director, that's it from me, and really looking forward to the session today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Truly, we are led. We appreciate also that brief about the BBC BE Youth Chamber. I think everyone who's here is already keen on joining us, so we appreciate that. Now, to get to the gist of things and why we are here, to the men of the hour, if I may say. I'm not gonna read all his bio because I don't want to give away everything, right? I'm just gonna touch on a few things, just on a few things. So today we are blessed to be talking with our very own CEO, Mr. Gregory Mofokeng. To say I'm excited is just an understatement. He is the CEO of the Black Business Council. He's also a father. He was born in Tibela village in Qwaqwa. He says in his bio, his entry into the construction industry was pure accidental. I can't wait to hear this one. I'm very excited. He is the member of the Executive Committee for the Construction Sector Charter Council. He also serves on the Council of the South African Council of the Landscape Architectural Profession. He's the inaugural Deputy Chairman of the Construction Industry Association's umbrella, body to the Construction Alliance South Africa. He owns and runs M2G Investment Holdings, which is an investment company with a diversified investment portfolio. That's his own company. But before we get to him, I'm very much interested. Press, I know you are here, Mr. Dick. You might probably have some few stories to tell us about Mr. Gregory before we start with him. Can I just give you an opportunity to just share a bit before we get into the gist of things?
Good evening, Program Director, and sincere greetings to the colleagues on the panel, the Deputy President of BBC BE, Mem Teto, the CEO of BBC, Tate Matabane, and the stalwarts who are present here, members of BBC BE and members of BBC BE Youth, the leadership of BBC BE Youth under the leadership of Ntate Lidira. Good evening. My role is not to introduce Ntate Mofokeng. For those who are closer to him, they call him Poka. But it's just to give the journey, that myself and him, our tour from where we started till today. Mr. Mofokeng and myself, we come a long way back from the era of when we used to be members of NAVBI, National African Federated Builders Industry, and were, under the leadership of Ntate James Mbedzi and Aubrey Chalate. And after that, subsequent to that, we had a conference at SLN Park. So whatever transpired there led to the NAFBI Council to hold a council meeting and recall the leaders of NAFBI. Of course, they refused to step down. So we are coming very far, myself and Mr. Mofokeng, with the issue of the step down policy. Then, having realized that it's gonna cost us a lot of time and money in terms of going to court, then we decided that it's fine, they can keep the name NAFBI, and that is when we hashed the name NAFCON. Which is NAFCO Construction. And when I met Mr. Mofokeng, he was still a personal assistant to the late Mr. Ndlovu, the founder of Fikile Construction, and from by that time I was still based in Limpopo. And I've been in the leadership of NAFCON construction, NAFCON in Limpopo. And in 2008, myself and Mr. Mofokeng, respectively, I was elected as the president of NAFCON, and he was the secretary general. Memartha was the TG then, and we also had the other two colleagues who were part of the office bearers, but something that I still have not came across, to any human being since I was born. It was the first time that I came across someone who's not drinking alcohol, but can dance the whole night, and that is Gregory Mofokeng for you. And for those who attend our events, you'll understand that he is very generous, when it comes to dancing. And the few things that I've picked up from Mr. Mofokeng is loyalty, and how he demonstrated that the challenges that we had or we came across when we were in the leadership of NAFCO construction was the creation of a parallel structure, and which started from the mother body, which was NAFCOC, and then it filtered down, to sectors. But what we agreed upon in our leadership was that we respect principles. Is that if we are not happy with any leader, there has to be a process. We cannot just decide to create a parallel structure. Me and him were victimized, the same as in BBCBE. We do have an investment wing. Then we also had an investment wing within NAFCOC because we couldn't join. Those who decided to form a parallel structure were victimized, but we saw that on, and that is one of the strong, character that I've picked up, from Mr. Mofokeng. In 2007, when we established BBCBE as member organization, from NAFCON. I came in as the president of NAFCON, and he was the SG. And Ntate Bafana Ndendwa became the president, the first president, the inaugural president of BBCBE. And Mr. Mofokeng came to me and said, Press, we're being offered the position of the Secretary General, and I said, look, I'm a president material, you are the secretariat material, so you are going to take that position. And what surprised many is that throughout those years, even when he was the Secretary General of BBCBE for 2 terms, he still continued, to address me as the president, because for him,
you have 2 seconds
that is the president, were elected together.
Yes.
And after he has served 2 terms, so some of us, we felt that we still need the energy, we still need the enthusiasm within him, to still take BBCBE to the next level. And that is when we proposed that we do away with the position of the SG. Instead, we introduced the position of the CEO. He is the inaugural and the very first CEO of BBCBE. And because then we're looking at a project, I think all of us, we know VRP and our projection, we thought that we would make enough money to sustain the organization. And unfortunately, things didn't go our way. And instead of him being a permanent CEO, we decided that no, we'll still keep you as the CEO, but on a part-time basis. And that is where we are. And he's everywhere, and he's trying to make sure that we take this organization to the next level. So, Ms. Program Director, I don't want to waste more time, but in short, that is the Gregory Mofokeng for you. And for all that time, he's someone who's giving 101% to the organization. And he is indeed an asset, that we value very much within the organization today as we celebrate the 14th year as BBC. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, President, for your kind words. And that just brief history of Mr. Mofokeng. To the son of the soil, we have so many surprises for you today. So to our speakers, when you see my face pop up, you must know your time is, you are just a minute away from just finishing what you're supposed to say. Mr. Gregory, can I see your face? That's why we are here. The man of the hour, the son of the soil.
Can you see my face, Program Director?
I see it now. I see it now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
How are you this evening?
I'm fantastic, and how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for allowing us to have this session with you. Press was just giving a bit of, a background on your relationship. And I learned about the step down policy. But before we get there, can you just give us a brief about who Gregory is, where he comes from, what is he about?
I don't like talking about myself, but in terms of the brief history, and I need to correct you here. So I was actually born in Everton, right? And obviously growing up in the 80s, the VAL was very unstable. There was a lot of, political protest happening in the VAL. And we were sent to the Free State to go and study. So that's that's where Tibella village comes in. So I spent most of my years, in formative years, in the village in Kwakwa, village called Tibella in Tsese. And so that's where, you know, I learned a lot about the early part of my life. So I often say that I infuse both worlds, the rural world and obviously the urban world. So later on, I came back and joined the family in the Val. And yeah, so that's where I come from. So the Val is my home and still remains my home. I regard myself as a migrant worker here in Gauteng. So I'm still very much rooted back home. Almost every weekend I'm in the Val to connect with the family and you know, my social circles back in the Val. So yeah, I'm a family man. I love my family very much. And it's quite a big family, so and the surname gives it away. So I'm quite connected to my family and to the network of the friends, the many friends that I have back home. So I'm quite rooted in my family and still very much rooted in the network of friends that I've cultivated since my earlier days.
Okay, no, that's great to hear. Actually, that's great to hear. Just a person with balance. I think for me is I was just going through your biography. It talks about you accidentally getting into the construction sector, right? So I want you to take us back just a bit on, did you actually, so I understand the accidental part. What is it that you actually wanted to do with your life? And then you accidentally get into construction. What makes you stay? Because I'm thinking to myself, you didn't know anything, right? You knew nothing about it, but you're like, I'm gonna stay here. So I just take us through that.
Yeah, so initially I wanted to become a lawyer. And
interesting.
And when I was in matric, I duly applied, you know, to all the institutions so that I can go and study law. But because my family background is such that you know, my parents ran their own businesses, I always had an eye on business, you know. So I decided, no, 7 years is going to be too much. So during my matric year, you know, you had to do a BProc for 4 years and then an LLB for 3 years. So in total, it was 7 years. I said, no, 7 years is too much. And I went and studied something in business administration and fusing that with IT. So when I completed my studies, my first formal employer, that is, because even before that, I was informally employed in my dad's businesses. I used to assist my mom with her businesses. But then my first formal employment was actually in the insurance industry. So when I started working for a company called Mutual and Federal. It is now called Old Mutual Insure. And then, you know, I went to join another insurance company called Regent Insurance. And then after that, you know, we were part and parcel of a youth organization based in Sharpeville called Walk the Talk. And we had a lot of programs there, you know, programs to clean up the township, to make sure that people don't live in squalor. One of the programs that we had was to actually pave the streets of Sharpeville, because most of the roads were not tarred and so on. So we initiated that project, and as a result, you know, we were noticed. That project was later, you know, funded by the Mfuleni local municipality, and as a result, you know, we then became suppliers and contractors on that project, and that's how I got into the construction industry. I knew nothing about it. And when we were busy paving the streets, we were then approached by the local leadership of NAFCOC in the City Bend region. And they told us about this wonderful organization. Or, you know, what we knew about NAFCOC then is that it was an organization of old gentlemen who ran shops in the township. That's all we knew. But then they introduced us to NAFB, as President was saying. They introduced us to NAFB, and we then became involved in NAFB affairs in Citibank. And so that was my first interaction with organized business, by the way. So when we got into NAFB, and then we learned more about the construction industry, and that's how I got hooked. And 21 years later, I'm still here.
Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And I think for me, is you get into this industry and you understand that you don't you don't have enough information about it. You don't know anything about it. What is it that you what did you do to make sure that you learn, right? And were people around you open enough to teach you things, or you just had to go and do things for yourself and figure things out for yourself?
Well, there's always been people around that were willing to, to make the time to mentor us, to make the time to show us the way, around the industry. So definitely, this journey has been a journey that has been supported by a lot of people. So from running our own little company down in the Val, and to also participating meaningfully in the organized business structures, we were mentored all the way. So I must say that we're fortunate that we had people that were willing to show us the way and to support us, in this journey. So mentorship played a very critical role early on in my life. I mean, when I got involved in the construction industry, I was about 19 years old, so that's when we got involved, and you can imagine, never studied anything built environment related, and then stumbling upon this industry, having to learn everything from scratch. So we relied a lot on the network of people that we had that supported us back then.
Okay, and you're touching on something that is very important, and that's also just close to my heart: mentorship. I think for me is, what would your advice be on the mentor-mentee relationship? Or how have you over the years managed those relationships, be it as a mentor and also be it as a mentee? Because I think with a lot of, especially when you're young and you're youth, you're energetic, you have all these ideas and you want to implement everything all at once, right? And sometimes you feel like you don't have enough time. But then you have mentors and people who will say to you, no, just briganyana, or whatever the case might be. So what would your advice be on the mentor-mentee relationship? Also, just from a point of being a mentor yourself and also being a mentee.
Look, first of all, I think we don't have enough mentors. That's the fact of life. We definitely do not have enough mentors. And obviously people that are out there hustling don't have the time. This is one thing that I've also realized myself, that I would like to do more, but because of time constraints, it's very difficult, to spread yourself quite thinly. But my advice to established, business people is to make the time. You don't have to mentor the whole village. You can pick 2 or 3, youngsters that you can then mentor, show the way, and that will go a long way in terms of, transforming their lives and making sure that at least they can live lives with purpose. And then from a mentee perspective, I think, we need to be patient, because the people that we look up to are busy. They run businesses and they have families. They're involved in so many other, organizations and areas of their lives. So sometimes we become impatient as young people, but I think, we need to exercise patience and give space to those that are volunteering to mentor us, so that they can be able to guide us. So I'll say that as young people, young people should not be impatient, and they must never lose hope. If one mentor relationship doesn't work, look for another one. Don't be despondent. So I think that's very important, especially for our youth.
Okay, thank you so much. I heard through a grapevine, right, that you once were involved in a 22-month negotiation. I think I find that very interesting, but I think with most of our attendees, we want to understand why for 22 months. Why was it so important for the construction codes to be adopted? And what was the fire burning within you to make sure that you are still here and you are keep going until you achieved it? So just take us through that process. I'm very interested in that story.
Well, going into the negotiations, we didn't know that it would take 22 months.
I can imagine.
We thought that it was just going to. We just thought that it's going to be a very quick sparring match, between the established sector and the emerging sector in the construction sector. Charter Council, as you rightfully noted, I'm still serving, by the way, in the executive of the construction sector Charter Council. So we went in. So the process is that every time the generic codes change, and as we know, the generic codes, are managed by the DTI. They are the custodians of the codes. Every time they change, the sectoral codes also have to align. So we went into an alignment and negotiation with the established sector. And that's when we realized that it is tough to transform because the established sector does not want to transform. So it took us 22 months, to find each other and for the established sector to agree, to all the proposals that we were putting on the table. And in fact, at some point, we had to take a step back and allow stalwarts in the industry to come in because we were just fighting tooth and nail and not wanting to compromise on the targets that we were proposing to say that we want to see this sector being transformed. And in fact, that 22 months impasse led to our codes being repealed, by the way, because we were not willing to compromise, as far as transformation targets were concerned. So yeah, we were involved in a protracted negotiation of that for 22 months. And it was simply because we wanted to make sure that we end up with the codes that will enable, transformation to happen in the construction industry.
Wow, negotiation skills. I think we can learn a thing or two. I don't know if Mr. Tao is here, because I also want to hear from him. Was he? I know I heard that he was part of this negotiation. I want to hear from him. I want to hear what were you doing throughout this whole process? Your frustration. How did you handle it, Mr. Tabo?
Program Director, he was disconnected, so he's not here with us.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Let's continue, CEO, because I think it's fine. We'll get to him. Because I really wanted to hear what your frustrations were at the time when you're going through all this process. So I think one of the things that are important is also just the work, which is your personal life and work balance. How do you find that balance? How do you make sure you keep it at a level where you're able to give the people around you enough time?
Yeah, so it's definitely not easy. It's definitely not easy. You always have to strive for that balance. And unfortunately, when you are in our space, you've got to be wired in a particular way. You are forever in meetings, and you are forever running to, address another urgent issue that has come up. You are being called this way, that way. So it's not easy to keep that balance. But, my advice to anyone who's in our space is to try and work, that balance in your life. It's very important that when you do come back from work, you've got a family that cares about you, that is still there, that can, still show you the love. And once you come back bruised from business, that at least there's a safe environment for you to go back to. So like I said, I'm rooted in my family. I stay with my 13-year-old son. Unfortunately, my mom passed away last year. My dad has already been late as well. So I've got my siblings that, I go to and keep very close contact with, because that's my safe space for me. So it's very important that you keep that work-life balance, intact at all times. Personally, I don't get the formula right, at all times. I will still be sitting on my laptop at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, because there are urgent, issues that you need to respond to. But I think it's very important that you keep that balance, a very stringent balance in your life as far as family and work is concerned. And look, I must say this, it's not easy, especially for Black young people, because there's so much expectations and there's so much to achieve. So you find that we invest quite a lot, on the business front, that we sometimes forget about family. So that's the difficulty that we have. But my advice is, try to maintain that balance as much as you can.
Thank you so much. Now you're a leader. Pardon?
Chairperson, hello. Good evening. How are you?
Oh, hi, Mr. Tabo. How are you? You are here.
I'm here. Nothing
Thank
about me without me.
Thank you so much.
Puka,
I heard you were
good
also part
evening.
of.
Yes.
I heard you were also part of the negotiations. I want you to give us just some real frustration stories about Mr. Gregory. How did he handle it?
Okay. Yeah. Fortunately, and Puka will tell you that they had thrown me into the deep end in the role called CEO of the Charter Council. So I was literally the admin middleman, right? So I had to sit in literally all those meetings. Others used to end right at midnight. But here was the attitude. The attitude was simple, that you rather do it correct or never do it at all, you know, because there was some level of expediency and there was an opportunity to want to, hey, we're under pressure, the DTI is repealing us, let's just complete this process. But the risk with that was that there were certain fundamentals which the Black business led by the BBC BE and the Black caucus in the negotiations was not prepared. Fundamentals were important to ensure that you consolidate the participation of Black women, young people, people with disability, all the historically disadvantaged constituencies. So the risk with finishing it early would have, the rest assured, Chair, it had nothing to do with negotiation skills or abilities. It had everything to do with ensuring that if either this thing is done correctly or it's not done at all. And I must say that when we finally signed and gazetted, this sector code, the construction code, was the only what is called progressive and revolutionary sector code that created opportunities for Black business in the sector more than any other. In fact, verification agencies, Puka, you recall, would come to meet us and borrow some of the principles that were the DTI, which are the cost. By the way, Chair, I met Puka when I was still at the DTI, when I was still having a personal number, when I was still doing what is called public service. I was responsible for the portfolio for BE and the sector codes. And I first met Puka in a meeting, a very hotly contested meeting, by the way, where there was a dispute over certain principles of the then construction sector code, which is the one that we're revising over these 22 months. And I must say, immediately in that meeting, we forged what is called Revolutionary Moral Alliance, because I was not supposed to group there because I was representing government, and government is interpreted and seen as being neutral. But the way they were articulating the issues made me realize that this is a type of thought leadership that you need in these sectors if you want transformation to take place effectively. So I thought I must fagaza just that the 22 months aspect, Chairperson, with your indulgence.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tabo. Thank you so much. Now we know Mr. Gregory. We're here. We are listening, and I think it's such a privilege and it's such an honor to have people around you who will speak such great things about you when you're still alive. You know, and I think that's the platform. You're other side of the soil, and I think for me, getting into BBCPE, everyone calls you CEO. Honest to God, if I didn't know what CEO meant, I would have thought that's your name. Because, you know, the book is new to me from today. It's very new. But honestly, if I didn't know, I would honestly say that's CEO. But that just goes to show the passion and the love you have for what you do and the space that you're in, because you give and you give. And what I keep learning from the speakers that we have talked to is not only do you have loyalty, but you have the fire within you. And the one thing that is very interesting to me is the fact that you started when you were still young. You were a youth, you know. You talked about, what, 19 years? being in the industry already. So that's very interesting to me, because as a young person who gets into the industry, and there's these people who are in the journey and opening up doors for you. What is it that made you say, you know what? Because I think we spoke a lot about mentors, right? Maybe just to take your first, did you actually say, this is my mentor? Did you choose? Did you ask them? Or were you like, you were looking at what they were doing and be like, that can be my mentor from a distance? What was the approach for you?
Program director, to be honest with you, back then we didn't even know what a mentor is. So I look back then and say, oh, actually that was a mentor. So there was no formalized program of mentorship back then. It used to be, people in the industry who will just, like you for who you are, for your energy, and say, no, we like this guy. You must come and do the following. So I must tell you how I became the secretary of, NAFB in Citibank, which is the first, interaction with organized business now, because we came in, and when we came into organized business, we were youngsters, and people that were there were, of course, of an older generation that have been running their own businesses. But one of the first things that I did when I got into NAFB Citibank was that I volunteered to take minutes. So at the next elections, I was elected Secretary General, because I volunteered, and I think that is what we should do, more as people. And I think the youth must also take a leaf out of that experience, that when you volunteer to do certain things, people will recognize the sacrifice that you are making, the commitment that you have, and then be able to say, no, we can do something here. Because there is willingness from the other side, to be able to, to get things done. So let's make life easy, for a person that has got the drive, has got the will, and the commitment to make things happen. So I volunteered and took minutes, because we were the youngsters. And little did I know that that was actually the start of my journey as a Secretary General for, NAFB in Citibank. And as the president said, that saw me, graduating all the way to become the Secretary General of NAFCO Construction National. Because I knew the work and I understood the nature of the beast. So I trained from an early on to be a secretary of an organization, and I excelled in that, and that's why throughout I was elected as a secretary, because I volunteered, I learned along the way, I was mentored along the way, and I was able to give my best, and people recognize that.
You touched on a very powerful thing: volunteering and substituting, idle minds and just keeping yourself busy. You are a leader in organized business. You are a leader in your own business. And I think one of my other questions would be, what is it that you consider when doing or when partnering with different businesses or people? What is a deal breaker for you? What is a deal maker for you? How do you choose? Because I think those are very important aspects of doing business and moving forward with your business, whether it's going to make or break your business. What have been the factors, that make you choose a business partner? And in both, your hats, as a business owner, as a leader in organized businesses.
Yeah, so I live by the principle that says, I believe in the inherent goodness of men. Okay, so when I meet a person the first time, I will never say that I don't like this person, I don't like their posture, and therefore I will never do business with them. So I always look at an opportunity to do business with people. I always look at an opportunity to interact with people. And I think for me, when I'm interacting with people, we must be able to adhere to certain basic principles. So I like to talk, to work with people who are honest, people who are hardworking. When we are working together, we must both make sure that we put in the hard work for things to happen. So I do not like a situation where we are in a partnership, but I do all the work and you are just, there to, to benefit from the hard work that I put in. So I think, I like people who work hard. I like people who are honest. And of course, our expectations must be aligned. So if we are saying we're going to do this, this is what we're going to do, let's be successful in what we're doing, let's make money. That's what I like, But I honestly give everybody that I meet a chance to do business, with that person. I mean, of course, you get disappointed along the way. I've had many disappointments, but I'm not disheartened. The next person I meet, I'm not going to say I've had a better experience, 2 years ago, therefore I can't do business with this person. No, that's not, how I live my life. I live my life such that I give every person a chance, and I repeat, I believe in the inherent goodness of men. It is the men that will disappoint me, but I will not go into a relationship already saying I don't trust this person.
That's big of you, I must say. We are not the same. That's really big of you. You have been in this journey for such a long time, and I think you've seen the evolution and the revolution of just Black businesses as a whole. What would your intake be from when you started to where it is now, and what the future of young people is, or where young people can be able to plug in themselves, and make sure that they take up opportunities with regards to making sure that Black businesses prosper?
Look, a lot has changed, I must say, compared to 21 years ago when I joined this industry. Black people were literally, in the periphery, of the industry. Most of the people that, were in the industry were running very small businesses. And so when we, started interacting with business people that are serious in this industry, for us, it was always a revelation, the president spoke about the late Mandla Ndlovu, and I must tell you this story, Chair, and everybody who's joined us tonight. When I joined Mr. Mandla Ndlovu, that was in 2006. So he was, elected the president of NAFCOC Construction, right, national. And at the time, he was introduced to us as the owner of the largest Black-owned 100% Black-owned business in the country. So you could imagine, coming from the Val, we didn't think that there was going to be a Black man that owns the whole construction company. We've never experienced such a thing, and not only, but the largest, and he started that business in the 80s, by the way. So by the time we met with him, he was already an institution in the industry, but one of the things that I was requested to do was to volunteer to be the PA in his office. All right, so I literally packed my bags from the Val and I came to Pretoria in 2006 to be the PA in his office, because he was running a big firm and now he was elected the president, and he needed somebody to be there, to be the eyes and ears in the organization. So I was that person, and a year later, I got involved in the business as well as his PA in the business, and that's how I got involved and became one of the prominent faces for Fikile construction in the country. But Fikile at the time was the largest, Black-owned construction company, and it was already doing work with the likes of Stefanuti Stocks. Now, back then it was Stocks and so on. So when I look at where we started and I look at where the industry is now, there are a whole lot more companies that are now 100% Black owned and are of a significant size. We can talk about Hotel Construction, the Enzas Constructions of this world, the Trendcons of this world. So there is a whole lot more players at that level, than in the past when I started. So I can say there's definitely been a change. Is that change significant enough? I don't think so. We can still do more. And that's why, we locked horns for 22 months with the established sector, because we wanted to make sure that, we can push more for transformation to happen. So there must still be a lot more that can be done. And I think the youth must then also be aware that also presents an opportunity, because we still need to do more to transform. We need more companies that are Black owned that can play at a much more significant role in the industry. So there's definitely a future for the youth, and the industry is changing. I mean, if you look at just the technological advancements alone, and that's that has created a lot of room for youth to come in, because there are definitely niches where youth can come in, establish themselves, and then step up so that they can then be able to play a much more significant role in the industry. So I'm excited about the future of the youth in the sector. I'm excited about, for instance, the BBCB Youth Chamber. I'm excited about the things that you guys are doing there, and that's why we're supporting you all the way, because we know that we have to prepare you for a leadership role in the industry. If we don't do that, you'll have to navigate all by yourself, and it will take longer. So I'm excited about the prospects for the youth. What we need to do is that we need to create a conducive environment for the youth to thrive. When I started, I can tell you that there was not much support given to the youth. And we need to correct that to make sure that the youth are given a platform, to come in, learn, and be able to, to grow in the industry.
What I keep taking is that you are a fighter, G. Like you are just a fighter. You are a bulldog. You're a bulldozer. You open those doors. And I think I appreciate your passion, and I think we can learn a lot from you as young people. You keep talking about volunteering, meaning that you made sure you were very intentional about where you wanted to be, and you did exactly that. And we appreciate the intentional also leadership that you play within the BBCBE, especially with the youth chamber, being intentional about putting us in these spaces so that we can learn. But moreover, you are a negotiator, you engage in a lot of things. And I heard that you've also been engaging in, or you've engaged ESCOM, PRASA, AXA, and I know Wutsi, Mr. Hanki, also Mr. Richard, they can take us through a bit of stories and tell us what was going on through these processes and through these stages, and what is it that made him stand out. And also your question, or maybe post after they've spoken, is what is the first rule of negotiation? Because I feel like you have that at the tip of your tongue or at the tip of your hands. Mr. Hanki, Mr. Richard, you are more than welcome to come and share some of your stories. We are here for it.
Yeah.
With this man. This is the son of the school, okay?
Program director, it's always a pleasure to talk about this man, because he doesn't speak much about himself, as he said in the beginning. But I must tell you, he reminds me a lot of my former chairman, Dr. Don Mkwanazi. I think for our youth, for those that do not know him, Google him up, and you will learn that he was one of our founding fathers of Black economic empowerment, Don Mkwanazi. The SG, I still call him SG. Some of us still struggle with the CEO title. But Greg is someone that when you want to go to war, and this is the party that you want on your side. Our own experience with these things is that you need a special breed of a person to do what needs to be done here. So that privilege that I had of working with Don Mkwanazi, I'm very lucky to see this in a new generation. And for those that understand what the Lawton Globus and the Don Mkwanazis had to go through to bring about Black economic empowerment in this country, will understand that that was just the foundations. We do need a new cadre of soldier that can now take it to the economic emancipation that we all seek, that we all want, So I got to learn from him that there's a few things that you need in the character traits to be successful. And the first one, which we don't always speak about, is deep, deep courage. This gentleman, the courage that he brings, not just to himself, but to others, to take on big battles, it's like an energy that he gives over to the rest of us. When we get into these big fights with the national treasuries, with the transnets, and so on, Greg brings this very deep courage that helps many of us to take on these big challenges. The other part that I've gotten to see with him is this unwavering resilience. The man, I think you called him a bulldog earlier. He just does not let go. He just does not let go. It reminds me of the dog that chases the truck or the car when it goes down the road. Sometimes you know that there's no chance, you're not going to catch it, but it still goes after it. So that energy that he brings, that resilience is absolutely contagious. And obviously comes the energy. I think the president mentioned it earlier, that the energy levels of this fellow is just unmatched. He will run through meetings from morning till late night, and then you'll still get emails coming in, 11:30, 12 o'clock, so on. He's on top on every issue that affects, this industry. So absolutely fantastic. He's a great communicator. We've heard him speak, but equally when we have to articulate very difficult position, his ability to take complex issues and just quickly simplify it, and put it across, absolutely fantastic. So also for me, the last thing is his ability to build relationships. Many of us are in the Black Business Council for the built environment because of Greg. What he does, he goes out, he seeks soldiers, others that he can bring in to help to advance the cause of Black business. Because when we sit in bodies like this, like the Black Business Council, they are not funded. So you rely on individuals that can take their own time and their own effort to do these things which we don't get paid for. And he's very good at really tumamina many of us, into this direction. Whenever he calls me and say, Rich, we need to talk, I already know there's a task waiting for me, to do. You don't even want to get back to him. But it's always with a pleasure, an absolute partner to have on many of these things. So for me, it's really very exciting to have somebody of his caliber, leading the BBCBE. An absolute joy to work with.
That's beautiful, Mr. Richard. As people get to always say that entrepreneurship is such a lonely road, but I think today we are quickly just proving that maybe it's not. Mr. Hank, say, over to you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I don't know whether you are a Program Director or Facilitator or MC or...
All of them, all at once.
Yeah, so if you have been paid, maybe we'll call you Program Director. But I suspect you are doing it for free. And President, Deputy President, Ile, and Mofokeng, the chairperson of the youth, all protocol observed, as they say. I think I want to start with a quote from Frantz Fanon, and it's mainly a learning I think that the youth should take from Greg. I quote, it says, each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. And I think that is very, very important. Mofokeng has found his mission. I think his mission is in construction, but also his mission is in organized business. So it's important for the young people to stop complaining, stop blaming Nelson Mandela and Nelson Mandela, the people who lived with Nelson Mandela and that age and that generation, and find its own mission. And I think the young people can learn from Greg, because he does not ask for permission. He'll get to the meeting at Netleg without attending the caucus, and he still wants to talk. And usually at Netleg, we agree at the caucus who's going to speak, but he'll just come and rock up and then speak. So that's great for you. So it's important that young people can learn that. Because young people have been asking for space even at the BBC level. And I always tell them, if you are going to ask for space, you would be here for the next 10 years waiting. You have to take the space because it's a highly contested space, and Mofokeng always does that. In all the meetings, he's always there. You cannot miss him. He's got the presence. Wherever he goes, you cannot ignore him, and you cannot miss him. He's always there. I think people have spoken about him. He is larger than life. He's got courage. I remember on the courage one, in Limpopo, people were singing about him. I think it's recent as last year, closer to Teflon, saying they're going to kill him and kill his family. And when I called him to tell him, he was just laughing. He never took the whole thing serious. So it's important that we should learn from him. I think I can't remember where I met him, but I suspect I met him while I was at Busa some years ago. And since then we've been together, very close. He's always, one thing that he likes. He always likes to fight and lobby. So wherever there's anything to lobby, you will find him in the center. All the fights at the BBC, I'm sure all the leadership at the BBC, he has played a role. One or the other, he was in the center, at the center of those fights and all those lobbies. So as I said, he doesn't at any given moment ask for permission. And I agree with Richard. What we need to do as this generation, if you look, for example, the ministers are almost the same generation. The incoming ministers and the ones that are doing well are almost our generation. So it's important that we create new billionaires. If you look at the current ones who are there, who are black, they were mainly created during Begi's time. And they've done well. They also found their mission. So I think it's upon us to create the next layer. And then we really have to force and make sure that happens. And it should happen in our generation so that our kids are not going to be fighting the battles that we should have fought. We have to do that as soon as possible. We need to start now to make sure that mission is accomplished. Thank you very much, and good luck, Mofokeng, in whatever you are trying to do. I'm sure you because you're a forceful person. Whatever you want to achieve, you'll achieve it by all means. And people will always not miss your presence in parties. As the president said, sober as you are, you're always the center of the parties. So good luck, and then thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hanke. Thank you so much. We appreciate hearing all these wonderful things about him. Hey, and I think it's very good that we learn even today that we need to speak of our leaders whilst they're still here and really just learn from them. I'd like to acknowledge, I've been told, that here in our midst, we do have Mr. John Mofokeng from SHRA, as well as Ms. Leti Mashao from Moteo, and then also Stalwa Chris Gianni from the BBC BE, as well as South Leadership, Ms. Lucy and Ms. Daly. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your presence in our midst. Mr. Gregory, I think we're going to move to our Q&A session. But before we do that, I had asked a question, and then we can move to our Q&A. And I don't know if you still remember, but if you don't, My question was, what is the first rule of negotiations? Because I think that you have that at the tip of your tongue. I feel like you are the owner of negotiations. So maybe you can give some of us, especially because we're still climbing the ladder. What is it that we need to know when we get into those doors? When we've kicked them, what's the next step?
Yeah, so before I answer that, Chair, I want to say that the world rewards the brave. If you are not brave, the world is not going to reward you. So you need to have the courage to go for what you want, and it doesn't matter who stands in your way. You must be able to find your way, around them or run them over so that you can get what you want. So I think that's a very important principle that our youth must have. That the world rewards the brave. So to answer your question, the first rule is you must know what you want. You can't go into a negotiation and be clueless, because then you're not going to be firm, on what is it that you want. So go into a negotiation with a clear objective of what is it that you want to achieve, and be firm, and not only be firm, but also be able to support it, with reasoning and have facts, at your fingertips. So when you go and negotiate, people must know that you're not a pushover, and that whatever position you assume, you are going to be able to defend that position with facts. There are people who just, like to argue for the sake of arguing. And then you can hear, but no, man, there's nothing coming back, man. There's no content here. The person is just arguing for the sake of arguing. And I think that's one thing that we must learn, is that we need to arm ourselves with facts so that we can be able to support our arguments. One of the things that I always say, as far as Black business is concerned, is that, in the past, we just used to say, when we look at, the environment around, anecdotally, this is what we see. And of late, I've said to even members of the BBCB that we cannot argue anecdotal anymore. We must present facts on the table, and that's why, for instance, we have, for instance, at the BBCBE, the research subcommittee, because I said that we need to be able to research, come with papers, come with facts, so that when we go to government and we say, this is the policy that we want changed, it is supported by facts. We can't go to government anymore and say, anecdotally, we feel that we're not empowered. No. We must put something tangible on the table. So any argument has to be supported by facts. Any negotiations has to be supported by facts.
Yeah, life favors the brave. I took that one. That's gonna be my line from now on. And I think you've just said a mouthful, and I don't want to be wasting more time. Memata, before we go to Q&A, you took this young man as a young man, before anything else, and you gave him a platform. And probably my question would be, why? What is it that you saw in him? And what made you feel like, what, we can trust him? As we know, the differences between the older generation and the younger generation, and trying to meet in the middle. Memata. Is she here? Okay. No, they say she's not here. That's fine. We shall continue. Mr. Greg, I have a few questions for you from the Q&A, where people have actually just been posing questions. From Anonymous, it says, if you had one piece of advice of someone to someone just starting out, what would it be? If you just had one piece of advice for somebody who's starting out. And from Gumula, and I think you also just touched on this, but maybe to explain it further. It says, what do you think of the future of construction in the industry in times of the 4th IR and the APT? Would you advise young people to join in the industry today? And the third question would be, I think we've heard everybody who spoke about this. How many hours do you work on an average? How many hours? I'm interested in this one. And then our fifth question would be, how has being a CEO affected your family life? And last but not least, I think we'll just take this set of questions and then we'll come back to the others. From Gumula as well, how much of your monthly spend goes to the youth-owned entities?
All right. So the first one to Anonymous, my advice will be: do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged. You will not get many doors. You will find that people, some will be receptive to your ideas, some will not be receptive to the ideas, and some will even criticize you, for whatever ideas you put on the table. Your responsibility is to go back, refine those ideas, and come back stronger. So my first advice is that whatever it is that you set your mind on, do not be discouraged if the world is not ready for your idea. If the world is not ready for you, don't be discouraged. Keep working at it, and one day, people will see the light. And as said earlier, young people have a future in the industry and have ideas. Some of those ideas are new. And I think construction, I always criticize construction to say construction is always the last, to adopt new technologies, so you must be aware that you are dealing with a very defensive industry. Every time a new technology comes in, the construction industry feels attacked, so when young people come with fresh ideas, my advice is that please do not be discouraged. Maybe the industry is not ready to embrace those ideas, but keep working at it, and you will see that in the end, people will see the value in those ideas and start appreciating and embracing those ideas. To Gumula, there's definitely a future. However, we must all agree that the industry is transitioning. All right, so we must all agree the industry is transitioning, and it is transitioning, as far as I'm concerned, into a brighter future. Okay, so we then need to move in tandem with the technological advancements that are happening, so that we don't find ourselves left far behind. And if you look at globally where the industry is, and you look at the industry as far as our country is concerned, you'll see that we are a few paces behind. And I think it is up to the youth to make sure that we keep apace with the technological advancements that are happening globally. And I think it is through the youth that we can then be able to transition this industry into a position where it is still globally competitive and still creates a lot of employment for our people in the country. So if you look at things like the 4IR, and by the way, I'm the president of the BEAM Institute, which the BBCB now plays a very significant role in. We need to see more and more uptake from our youth as far as that is concerned. ABTs, as Gumula has noted, is another area that we can't ignore anymore. And what we are seeing, Gumula, is that there's still resistance, but at a household level. If you look at your other social infrastructure, your clinics, your schools, we are using a lot of ABTs there. I think over time, people will start appreciating that ABTs are here to stay, and that technically they can perform just like any brick and mortar, and we'll see those technologies being applied more and more, in our individual homes. There's resistance is still there. We need to obviously make sure that we educate our people so that they can appreciate the technology and the fact that this is not something that is there temporary, but it can perform just like brick and mortar, and it has got resilience. How many hours do I work? So I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. If everything is okay, I managed to go and I will go and put in an hour or two at the gym, and I usually sleep at around anything between 12 and 1 o'clock. That's the hours I put in.
Okay, you just touched on waking up. I will not touch on that one because I know youth and waking up, we are not friends. I'm not talking to every every other young person, but I'm just saying, putting it out there. Okay, let's take a second round of questions. Mr. John Mofokeng, he says, the question I have would be to ask, considering the present, how do you Black business in this space can take the lead and provide solutions confronting the sector, e.g. key infrastructure project are still delivered slow outside the projected timelines and budget. We don't seem to be keeping up with the technological advancement. And 2 questions from Ms. Nkululeko. What is your biggest motivation for waking up each day? And also, there's a thin line between confidence and arrogance. What would that be? And then Anonymous says, what are your views on the comments of the DTI minister today that, oh, okay, I just slowly just lost that. Okay, what are your views on the comments of the DTI minister today that the VRP will be redirected to the efforts of to rebuilding? And then lastly, what are the strategies did you first use to market yourself? Did you get those, Mr. Gregory?
I did, ma'am. I was writing furiously as you were reading them out.
Let me just write.
No. I can follow and write. I'm one of those few men who are multitaskers.
Few men. I will not say. All right.
All right. So to John Mofokeng, look, the issue here is that, you know, and I want us to de-link the 2 issues, because I've been in big companies and I've seen that big companies also fail to deliver projects on time. I think the issue is that, you know, we must be able, first and foremost, to have clients that are willing, you know, to, number one, go the extra mile to assist where they can, especially with our developing companies, because yes, there are challenges. And you find that the developing companies that are owned by Black people, women, youth, and people with disabilities do have capacity challenges. And I think, you know, in our country, because we have a developmental agenda, it is critical that clients, especially public sector clients, do provide the supportive environment so that when there are capacity challenges, those companies can be assisted so that they can be able to get their act together. You know, so that's on the one part. And I think with the other part, you do have large companies, some of them are Black owned, some of them are white owned, and they don't deliver projects on time. And I think, again, you know, the clients should be much more tougher with this kind of companies, because it's about resourcing. You know, it's about resourcing the project so that you can deliver the project on time within budget. You know, and I think our construction companies, large as they are, Black or white, need to do more to make sure that we are not, you know, a country that is always known for delivering infrastructure late. I mean, if you look at what is happening with the ESCOM CAPEX program, I mean, it's a disgrace what has happened with ESCOM and the cost overruns that we have experienced there. You know, to even, you know, smaller projects where you find that even a community road takes forever to be completed. So I think, you know, we need clients that firstly can play a supportive role, but when it comes to especially the bigger companies, we need clients that must hold those companies accountable. And if they do not perform, terminate the contract, go contractual, terminate the contract, and then be able to onboard companies that can be able to deliver that infrastructure. But program director, having said that, we also know that we have problematic clients, especially public sector, that does not pay on time and does not do what is expected contractually. So I think we must also factor that into the mix. Let us not only blame contractors when there is non-delivery, we must also look at the conduct of the public sector clients as well, because that's where we are picking up a lot of problems when it comes to delayed or non-payment, you know, of contractors. And generally, you also find that public sector clients are also not capacitated to deal with contractors. So I always say that, you know, it is in our best interest as business, and especially as Black business, to do work for a capacitated client. So in actual fact, what we are saying is that our very best minds actually must be in government, because once government is capacitated, you are then able to do work and implement projects for a capacitated client. And then we're not going to have a problem, you know, of expectations not being met, or, you know, when certain things go wrong, you want to engage with the client, but the person who is the client rep just does not understand, you know, what you are putting on the table. So I think it's important that, we also do our bit to make sure that those of us who are capacitated, who are knowledgeable, who've gone to school and know these things, we must encourage them, especially those that don't want to start their own businesses. We must encourage them to be employed by government so that they can capacitate government. The next issue is the issue raised by Nkululeko. What is my biggest motivation? My biggest motivation is to see to it that there is a difference in the world that I live in. I wake up every morning and I thank God that I have an opportunity to change, what is before me, and I have the energy, I have the drive, I have the zeal, I'm resolute that I want to do certain things and make sure that, I can effect the change and be the change that I want to see. So that's for me is my greatest motivation, to wake up every morning and see to it that what needs to change so that at least we can have a better world, for all of us. Of course, making money is not a bad thing. So, I get motivated also by the possibility of making money.
You have to. There's no other way. There's no other way. So before we just, you're still answering?
Yes, I'm still answering. So, and Nkululeko asks, what's the difference between confidence and arrogance? It's how you say it. Yes. That's the difference. It is how you say it. You can deliver the same message, but if you say it in a particular way, it will be well received, but the message will be delivered. Okay, so yes, the biggest difference is how you say it. So you can deliver the same message, but it will be received as arrogance because of how you say it. And the same message can be delivered differently, and you say, this guy is confident about what he's talking about. It's how you deliver the message, which is important for me. The issue of the VRP, I've seen that coming through. We are definitely going to be communicating with the minister and the VRP. We, as most of you know, that we have disengaged from this process. But now that they're saying they're going to be spending money rebuilding schools, we need to position our members to do so. So the first thing we're going to ask tomorrow morning, Elaine, the first thing we're going to ask is who is issuing the tenders. We want to be there where the tenders are being issued so that our members can then be able to benefit from there. So that's the first question we'll be asking tomorrow morning, if there is any money that will be invested into the rebuilding program by the VRP. And the last question is, how do I market myself? I think, again, it's about knowing what you want and going out there and presenting your story and not being discouraged. There are a lot of times where you go, you talk to people and this is what I want, they're not ready for you, or they don't see what you're talking about, but don't be discouraged. Go back in there, refine your idea, go back in there and make sure that you get what you want at the end of the day. My personal mantra, again, is that I always work on the fact that I must be courageous. I always say that there must never be anything that is out of your radar. If there's any person that you want to talk to, go there and talk to them, and present yourself in a way that will be, acceptable to those stakeholders. So one of the things that I always say is that, for instance, at BBCB, I used to tell the youth, for instance, small things matter. How you dress matters a lot. You will be surprised. How you dress matters. You can have the best storyline, but because you are not dressed appropriately for that occasion or for that office you are visiting, you will never be listened to. So how you market yourself has got a lot of variables that you need to look at, but it starts with small things. How you speak and how you dress is very important.
You touched on a different subject there, but it's okay. It's okay. I understand that your first form of communication would be how people perceive you. Just a few round of questions, and I think this is just from me. What is your take on the BE, right? And also, entrepreneurs are tired, say, of incubation programs. Professionals are tired of internships, and they are tired of learnerships. What would be factors that would help them penetrate through the market, and also maybe have programs that don't only deal with just the minimal parts of just teaching, but to be able to just not only teach, but also transfer skills and give the young ones an opportunity to work and get the monies.
Right. So there is always talk about, you know, the fact that when is BE going to come to an end? And my answer is always that BE will come to an end when the ownership of this economy reflects the demographics of the country. Okay. So when you look at that, I mean, you can look at any stats, whether it's a JSC stats, whether it's stats generated by government itself, you will see that we are still a long way, you know, from making a mark in this economy. All right. I mean, even when you look at, you know, the asset management side, which is again a critical aspect of the economy, because money wills and fuels any economy. You just look at the stats that are usually bandied about in the asset management space. 3 trillion rands of asset under management. You know, black asset managers only control 600 million rands of that. In fact, it's 4 trillion, and they only control 600 million rands of that. I think, you know, we still need to do more to make sure that black people own the majority of this economy, so that it is reflective, you know, of the demographics. I mean, the recent, you know, unfortunate looting in our country is a reflection of that, to say people are not players in the economy. So we need to do more to make sure that we transform the economy. So as far as the BE question is concerned, BE is going to be with us for the longest time, until we can fully transform the economy, and we are all comfortable that the economy has changed hands. I think people have a wrong impression of BE. Just because you have got 2 or 3 people at the top, you know, Patrice Motsepe, Sakima Kozomaye, people feel that, no, but we have been doing this, people are fine, man. We've got a couple of billionaires who should be fine. No, we're not fine. And we're not going to be fine until the majority of the people own this economy. So as a result of the looting that has happened, one of the things that we need to be talking about is how do we now immediately transfer the economic assets in those communities into the hands of those communities? What does it mean? It means then now we must talk about the funding. Now that now takes you into the policy space to say, how do we then have policies that are supportive of that? How do we instruct the PIC, the Public Investment Corporation, to start funding communities to own those shopping malls, to own the businesses that are in their communities? So these are some of the issues that we need to be talking about as a nation. And I think, you know, we are fortunate, all of us who are here today, that we are given an opportunity to be part and parcel of these discussions and to shape the future of the country. So let us not find ourselves at the periphery. Let us position ourselves at the heart, you know, of the discussions that are going on. And this ties in with your question around incubation and internships. Again, I want to emphasize this point. Everything starts with policy. All right. So if you look at, for instance, what you know, some of the internships that companies have, those companies will model the internships and the incubations and so on around, for instance, the BE policy, around the construction sector policies and so on. So when we now want to create an environment where they must graduate from those internships and incubations and to start doing business, it is those policy tools that we must again utilize to make sure that we create the environment. Because what I've learned is that capital is very selfish, all right? Unless you create policy that forces people to behave in a particular way, they will not do it. One of the issues that I always discuss, and that's why we took 22 months when negotiating the construction codes, is that I said, but you must remember that we don't own assets. White people do. So they must transform, not us. All right. So if the owners of assets are not willing to transform, then those of us who want to get access to those assets are going to have a problem. So you must have a willing owner who's willing to say, I'm willing to share what I have with the have-nots. All right. And that's where the problem is in this country, where you find that the haves don't want to share with the have-nots. All right. And they deliberately make it even difficult for you to access those assets. So I often say that even when people are saying the pace of transformation is very slow, I say to white people, but you are to blame as well. All right. Because every time there's an opportunity to transform, you don't want to transform. When you force you to transform through policy, what you then do is that you will select that I will only empower this black man over and over again, as opposed to saying, how do we share the wealth amongst the people? Because government can't dictate to Van der Merwe who you're going to sell to. Van der Merwe makes that decision in his personal capacity. So whilst can't blame government exclusively for the slow pace of transformation, they also are to blame for it. And by the way, if there was goodwill, there was no need for laws. If white people were saying, we are willing to share the cake, why do we need to develop a law to effect that? There's no need for a law. We are here because whites don't want to transform. And that's why we need laws to be able to do that. Now, even our bigger black-owned companies must know that they have a responsibility to support the youth. They have the responsibility to empower women. So some of them, when they cry, when we tighten the screws, for instance, with the construction sector codes, they say, oh, but it's difficult. But I say, but we must remember that the responsibility to transform does not only lie with white companies. You are fortunate enough to be running a company that turns over 2, 3, 4 billion rands. You have a responsibility to empower those that are coming up. So this is a global picture that we need to understand, that we've got the levers, but everything in our space must start with policy, because policy gives us direction. It gives us the levers that we can then utilize, to be able to shape how the economy needs to behave and how it needs to transform.
Thank you for that powerful response. I think I'm answered. Mimatha, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much for joining us back. So one of the questions I had was, you took this young man, he still looks young, he's still very fresh, and you gave him an opportunity, and you gave him a platform. I think one of the questions is why, and what made you look at him and be like, we're going to work with him, and we're going to push him, and we're going to encourage him. Yes, please just take us through that.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me into this to come and talk about this young man, Gregory Mofokeng from Sidibeng. I met Gregory at his early youth days. I think he was 21 at that time. First time when you come across Gregory, you just see this energetic young man, full of confidence, and then willing to work, always volunteering to do some work. He mentioned that at some age stage, when he was talking earlier. So that alone, it's appealing for one to say, I think I need to work with this young man. Gregory, President Masimini has touched on when did he meet with him. I met Gregory before the president. That was in 2000, while we were trying to launch NAVCO construction. He was, because of the energies, he was given a task to go and organize regional structures in all the provinces in preparation for the launching of NAVCO construction provincial structures that led also to the launching of NAVCO construction at national. That's Gregory. He's full of energy. His energy is amazing. Sometimes I look at him even today. He's 42 this year. Look at him and still see the same energies I saw in 2001 when he was 21 years old. Gregory has energy, and I think I would say he is blessed. He is blessed with confidence. God has blessed him. God has blessed him with bravery, So he's a special breed, definitely. I was lucky, or I'm very grateful to have known him from that time at personal level as well as at business level. So it's basically Gregory's energies that are appealing, and willingness to do some work. And when he he does do something. He does that thing diligently. So, you know, he is always well prepared to make a case, to make a presentation. Gregory, I don't know what to say about him, but as BBCBE, we are blessed to have a man like Gregory Mofokeng.
Thank you so much, Mama. We appreciate those kind words. You know, as also just a founding member, one of the founding members of EPBCPE, we appreciate, you know, taking your time and giving us just a brief on Gregory. And we also just appreciate the platforms that were given to him to run with the baton. Truly, it's such an inspiration. Thank you so much, Mom.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much to everyone. I think we've come to a part of the session where it's a bittersweet one. Mr. Mofokeng, I want to see you. You are the man of the hour. Where are you?
Yeah.
I think I'd like to take this time to just say thank you for availing yourself, and truly we are honored. I've learned so much from you and from the people that really you've been around, the people that you've impacted. You're such an honorable leader in your own right, and so much has been spoken about you, but one thing I keep taking is your courage, your resilience, your loyalty, your bulldozerness, if there's such a word. And it's really inspiring also for us to have a leader who's intentional about growing the youth, and that's what we've seen from UCO. We really truly appreciate it. Nyamzwela, Elaine, Nomfanelo, tomorrow they have some questions to pose and some emails to send. But truly it's because of the passion that you have. Maybe just parting words from you. And what does it hope the years come for this street?
All right. So program director, I missed the last part of what you were saying. So I'll just then assume that you were asking me to say a few words as a parting shot.
Yes.
So a couple of things that I want to put forward. One, again, and this is central, and it sometimes it seems as if it is something that requires you to to do a whole lot more, and you are receiving less, but it is important for development. Volunteerism, it's very important. Volunteer to do things. Don't wait to be asked. For things to be done. Where you see that there's an opportunity to do something, move into those space. And you will see that over time, people will trust you. People will entrust you with more responsibilities because you are showing leadership. So I think in the space where you are, it doesn't matter where, it does, whether it's in a church setting, in a community development forum, and in BBCB or SAWIC or any other organization, wherever you are, volunteer, because that does a lot to build your character and to also capacitate yourself to do, a whole lot more responsibilities than you are set out to do. To again, to the youth, go and get it. The world, like I said, rewards the brave. If you're not brave enough, the world is not going to reward you. So when you see an opportunity, go out there, fight for it, and get it. And there will never be a perfect environment, by the way. So if you are looking for a perfect environment to exist, you are looking for something that will not be there for the longest time. So you are responsible for creating the environment. So go out there and create that environment. Don't wait for someone else to create that environment for you. So it's akin to outsourcing your life. No, this is your life. You can't outsource it. Someone else can run your life for you. It's your responsibility. So you must go out there and make things happen, because you owe it to yourself, to make sure that things happen. Again, be courageous. There is that, breeze between arrogance and courage, but be courageous. and fight for what is right. What fires me up every time is that we must fight, for what is right for those that are in our midst. So when it comes to members of the BBCB, for instance, we wake up every day and we say, we need to fight for an environment that is conducive. We need to fight so that our members are able to operate properly. And if there's injustice somewhere, it is our responsibility to fight that injustice. All right. So that also fires me up, and I think it should be a guiding principle, for our youth as well. Lastly, Chair, I am where I am because of organized business. I don't want to lie to you. I got into this space young. It molded me to be who I am. Everybody that, or most of the people that I know today that have opened doors for me that I'm partnering with are people that I met because of organized business. All right. So more than looking for a payment for attending meetings, look for those networks, because it creates an environment for you to be able to network, know people, and get access to those people. And that is the greatest dividend anyone can get from organized business. I often say that, it's just a pity now that we've got COVID-19. At some point, when you attended a BBCB meeting, you'll find CEOs of all top, Black-owned companies in the country. That is the value of this organization. And if you are not in it, you don't then get the benefit of that. So this platform has given me access to a lot of people, a lot of influential people, government, ministers, business people, and I will be eternally grateful for that, because without it, I would not have been, where I am today.
Thank you so much. Now to give the vote of thanks to our DSG for EU Chamber, Mr. Fana Kumado. You are more than welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Feziwe, our facilitator. I must say again to the CEO, CEO, I can listen to you for the whole night, even this 1 hour, 30 minutes. It felt very short, Program chair, I propose to say we continue with season 2, or part 2. Okay, greetings to the BBCBE leadership led by Mr. Denima Semene, BBCBE Youth Chamber led by Mr. Refilwe Lidira, BBCBE CEO, Mr. Gregory Mofokeng, also known as Usingaye, I think the chair will translate that for you, Mr. Mofokeng. BBCBE administration, all BBCBE members, and to every attendee. First and foremost, would like to appreciate your presence, Mr. Mofokeng, and then your time, to share with us your journey and all the successes and the challenges you came through. And then again, I think I should also make justice to thank Ms. Feziwe for steering this ship with due diligence. Thank you very much, Ms. Mpaku. Thanks to Mr. Refilwe Lidira, our youth chairperson, for giving us the background information and the objectives that were outlined of this CEO meetup that we have. A special thanks again to Mr. Denima Semene for the background information in relation to the organizational work history with Mr. Gregory Mofokeng. A big and unconditional thank you to Mr. Gregory Mofokeng again for availing your time to share your journey with us, words of wisdom that you just shared with us, and encouragement. I must say, CEO, to say a lot of young people who are part of this session, I believe to say they've learned a lot from you. Me as well, CEO, I feel inspired, So thanks very much for that. And a very thanks again to Mr. Thabo Masombuka for sharing, his journey with you, Mr. Richard Fries, Mr. Kanki Matabane, Ms. Martha Sidumedi, We really thank all the guest speakers and for and our CEO, for availing his time to share his journey with us. And then I must say, CEO, when you spoke about the economy transformation, you just reminded me, you sounded more of a card-carrying member of a certain political party that I don't want to mention. But thanks for that. Okay, my role for today is simple. It's just to say thank you and to officially close our session. Having said those words, guys, this brings us to the end of our business. Let's keep well and stay safe. Thank you very much for